This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police boost coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at some of the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 19th of October, 2022, and I am 2M.
I am DK.
And I am 2J, and in case you missed today's headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, we have battling ghosts from the past. In the Standard, Gachagua, making of a dead case. In the Star, my plan to turn around Kenya's ailing economy. And in the People Daily, baptism of fire for CS hopefuls. We'll get to English later on. But yesterday, MC Squared told us that we cannot blame the parliamentary vetters for what we have witnessed this week.
Correct.
And I could not agree more. It has been confirmed to the public that politics is the vehicle for making money. And if you want to be a filthy rich hustler, start planning for 2027 now. But beyond this, it confirms that we live in the age of the hustler government. And that is why we cannot blame Parliament for what we are seeing. The cabinet vetting was a totally pointless endeavor with the purpose of flexing muscles and ticking boxes. And then the filthy rich hustlers will be approved to become filthy rich cabinet secretaries. But is this behavior in Parliament foreshadowing of the next 5, 10, or even 20 years? And what does it tell us about where our politics is headed? I am of just two minds. On one hand, this is realpolitik at work. Kenya Kwanza is all about practical politics. Morals and ideological honesty is for your pastor. And this is why they are using the majority in Parliament to shield their allies, shock us with their boldness, and make the opposition think twice. And politically, this is smart.
Yes.
Hustlers elected them to pursue hustler interests.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And by any means necessary.
Beautiful.
This is why they fought and schemed to secure the majority. And this is why Wetangula is working overtime to shield the CS nominees from difficult questions. Realpolitik requires a Machiavellian approach.
Bang.
End of story. But on the other hand, we may have a tyranny of the majority problem on our hands. And this is an inherent weakness in any democracy. At some point, the majority will pursue its own objectives at the expense of others.
Yeah.
Now, normally, this type of boldness happens slowly over time. But as we have told you, the Ruto motto is to do all the bad things quickly.
Yes.
Now, the problem with the tyranny of the majority is that it allows for absolute power by mob rule.
Yes.
Decision-making is made by the majority. Resources are shared by the majority. It is centralization at work.
Yeah.
So when theorists like the ancient Greeks, John Adams and Alexis de Tocqueville acknowledged this danger of a tyrannical majority, they suggested checks and balances to prevent it from happening. And one version of this was the separation of powers through the three branches of government.
Yes.
But these lines are getting blurry.
Oh, yes.
The executive is firmly yellow. The judiciary received its funding, and now they forgot how to administer the law. And the legislative has serious legitimacy issues.
Yes.
We are slowly watching the majority turn into a mob that will govern unsupervised. What is next? The return of Section 2A. Call us alarmist, and we could be wrong, but the pressure is getting worse. And the only solution is a strong and focused opposition. While it may not be a codified role, there's a way for Azimio to apply pressure on William Ruto's government. In fact, Raila is smart to attach himself to Bunge la Wananchi as a platform that gives him relevancy. And it could just be the poison that turns the hustler nation against Ruto.
Woo.
We'll see.
No, in President William Ruto's first 30 days, the criminal justice system has received a total shakedown, more like shock therapy. The last 14 days, and in quick succession, DPP Haji has either withdrawn or reviewed almost 10 billion shillings worth of cases, all in less than a month. In addition to this, William Ruto personally disbanded a DCI crack unit known as Special Service Unit and put it under house arrest. Last week, DCI also got a new boss, Mohammed Amin. Now, these actions, ladies and gentlemen, are not a coincidence. It's pretty clear what the maxim here is. To my friends, everything. To my enemies, the law. It's that simple. But that is not where I'm going with this. Now, if it is true that President Ruto is behind the revamp of the criminal justice system, it is not because he wants revenge. No, he's way more sophisticated than that. We want to hypothesize that the criminal justice system is being revamped to deal with those that put Ruto in power, period. And this is not far-fetched. It's not a far-fetched hypothesis. But before I tell you why, allow me to tell you a story about a man called Boris Berezovsky. Berezovsky met Putin in the early 1990s when Putin was a KGB spy and was working for the St. Petersburg mayor. The two socialized and even skipped together in Switzerland. By the late 90s, Putin had become head of FSB, the KGB successor agency. The sickly Yeltsin family was seeking a successor. And so they approached Berezovsky and asked him to look for a successor. And just like that, Berezovsky offered the job to his KGB pal, Vladimir Putin. Berezovsky reckoned that because he put Putin in power, Putin would play ball. He was wrong. It quickly became apparent that Putin had his own vision of Russia, a darker, less democratic space in which the country's spy agencies and criminal justice system would play a vanguard role, and with Putin unequivocally in charge. The two clashed. Putin seized Berezovsky's TV station and Berezovsky fled to London. Putin followed him there. In 2013, Berezovsky was found dead outside his home in London.
Wow.
What's the point of my story? Do I really need to explain to you?
Yes. That's shocking.
Died outside his house. I hope it wasn't winter. That was an outside mortuary. Anyway.
Yeah.
And today I want to begin an analysis of the leadership style of President William Ruto. And as I consider what we have observed of him on the first 35 days in office, one word comes to mind. It is the word bifurcate. The word bifurcate might not be familiar to everyone, so let me give a definition.
Yes.
The dictionary defines bifurcate as to divide into two branches or to fork, or simply go in two directions. If I were to use it in a sentence, I would say the road bifurcates ahead. Now that we are together, I want to use this word to describe our newly elected president's political strategy. I want to suggest that William Ruto understands the need to play out politics as a game for the masses and to keep the people busy. The purpose, of course, is to ensure that attention is always deflected away from himself. President Moi played this very well. Kibaki and Uhuru, not so well. Could it be the nature of Kalenjin versus Kikuyu politics? We have no idea. We shall consider that another day. Back to Ruto and his bifurcated politics. We already see that Ruto is surrounded by a circus of actors who are mesmerizing us with their antics. From his DP to his CS nominees, can't help but stare in wonderment and confusion. And the president likes it that way. By the time we find our voices to protest, Ruto will be well ahead of us in the game. It will be too late, and that is one side of his bifurcated strategy. The second path of his strategy is less chaotic and less visible. It is about getting things done. Get what done? We do not know yet. But make no mistake, Ruto is up to something. In a short while, we will know as he begins to roll out his plan. But the point is this: he will do it behind the scenes. Take, for example, the razzmatazz around the CS interviews. By the time it is over, we will have no energy left to engage the PS interview process. It will therefore happen quietly behind the scenes. The process will be serious and produce a crop of workers to manage this country. Most of us will miss this space where Ruto will create a machinery to make things happen and to keep development going. This is where he's hiding his fine technocrats.
Yep.
Just like his kitchen cabinet, Ruto is all about an invisible band of professionals. This is where big decisions and big deals will be made. We have said it before, that presidents who focus on economy at the expense of politics will collapse country. We hate to say it, Kibaki ignored politics and lost in 2005 referendum, which led to the 2007-08 post-election crisis. And more recently, the mysterious loss of the 2022 election by Raila still raises many questions about Uhuru's political strategy. Did Raila lose Uhuru's voting bloc because Uhuru failed to manage politics of the day? Is this why Kikuyus abandoned him while hustlers drove him out of Twitter? In conclusion, keep an eye out on this man called William Ruto's bifurcated game. His double-edged sword will give us mesmerizing politics on one hand and quiet activity on the other. The warning, Kenyans, is to avoid being hypnotized by the fast-moving magic of politics. Keep an eye on both hands. Otherwise, you just might miss out on what is really going on with this presidency.
That is such a good point. I was so tired of the CS interviews this week. I forgot that we have PSs next week.
Come.
I don't know if I'll be paying attention. All right, so on that note, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines by. We ask ourselves, is the headline topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally, thoughtful or just plain lazy?
Yes.
I want us to start with the People Daily. Baptism of fire for CS hopefuls. English, please. I think the PD, what you meant to say was baptism by fire. So on that note, we're going to toss you. How do you baptize
fire with water as it goes off?
We don't know.
Wait till the editor there.
Yes, so on that note, we're going to toss the People Daily. We're going to look quickly at the Daily Nation. Battling ghosts from the past, and the star of my plan to turn around Kenya's ailing economy. Kenya's ailing economy, I think that was an interview.
Jogona Dongo.
Yes, Jogona Dongo.
Professor Jogona Dongo. And then there was Battling Ghosts from the Past. I think that was Aisha Jumwa.
Yes.
I propose we get rid of the Daily Nation, get rid of the Star.
Yes, and we give it?
You give it to the Standard.
Yes, Gashagwa, making of a dead case. Whatever that means, right? I agree, we award the Standard our winning headline. On to the political pieces that we call cartoons, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is this cartoon humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally, effective or just plain lazy? Absolutely. I want to suggest we begin with the Daily Nation.
Daily Nation is... that's a caricature of, I think this is the ongoing CS interviews.
Yes.
And this is a caricature of a man, probably his family, watching the interviews happen. And he's saying never a dull moment. And on the screen is Moses Kuria and I think Aisha Jumwa, and
I think Duale.
And I think Duale. And the caption there is the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that they're trying to probably call Aisha Jumwa as
ugly.
You never know. But I have a bone to pick with, there's a guy called Kosing. Kosing, I think, is an MP who said that because Juma got a D, she should not be on the bench. She should not be a minister.
Yes.
And you just never know what the kind of hurdles people go through to make it here. And if she has gotten here with a D, what she does and what that inspires in other people where she comes from is bigger than the D that this Kosing guy was talking about. And let me tell you, we've always said something here. CSs are the flower girls of ministries. The people who run ministries are the PSs.
It's true.
So I don't think there should be so much hullabaloo about.
You're right. In fact,
the
question should be her competencies as a person who's going to project the work of her ministry.
Precisely.
Is she able to give voice and access to what her ministry is doing?
Yes.
You're right. I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
All right. I suggest we park that while we look very quickly at the Standard. DK.
The Standard is a caricature representing all the 5 presidents. Jomo the first Moi, Kibaki, Uhuru, Kenyatta
Uhuru
the second,
Prince.
Uhuru the Prince, and William Ruto the fifth. And now it's about the
Can say
succession.
that again.
Yeah, William Ruto. The succession. It's about the succession of drought,
Yes.
and famine, and the key words that are used around this time. We are facing drought in the country. The government, the Kenyatta says the government. Moi says declares drought. Kibaki and famine. Uhuru the Prince are national, and Ruto has inherited the disaster. Basically depicting of what is happening in Masai land, especially in other parts of the country, in that space. I don't find it inspiring. They try to play with the words, but
No, it's actually, I hadn't thought about the playing of the words that Ruto ends up inheriting the disaster. I think that maybe you giving credit to Gado where credit is not due.
really,
So maybe we award you that win. I would agree, we tossed the standard, not very inspiring. Let's look finally at the Star.
at Khartoum.
All right, in the Star we have caricatures of Alice Wahome, and she's crying on the lap of National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula. Another nominee is also sitting on his lap in front of the cabinet podium, and underneath on his feet I think there are wads of cash. And the caption there is "Order, order from above." I think the context here, we had mentioned it yesterday, is that when asked about her degree, Wetangula defended her and said, "But I saw you in school, therefore you must have been there."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if you put all of this into context, Wahome is being shielded by Wetangula, who the puppet master at the end of the day, as one of the cartoons yesterday told us, is Ruto in the end. I think the country knows what's happening.
Tuje, as you rightly said, the Kenya Kwanza's mantra right now is if you're about morality, take morality to your pastor.
It's not my problem.
Take it to your pastor. There's a new way of doing things. It's the hustler way. If it seems criminal, that's okay.
It's your problem.
It's your problem.
Right, exactly. So get on board, or you can go sit with the opposition. All right, so who are we going to award the winning cartoon to?
There is one called PD. I think that one out.
Pass the PD.
And then
I'll give it to Daily Nation.
I think we did.
Nation?
Give it to Daily Nation.
I would agree, give it to the Daily Nation. Okay, on that note, we have a winning cartoon from the Daily Nation and a winning headline from the Standard. So happy Mashujaa Day, fellow Kenyans. And as we go into Ruto's first Mashujaa Day as President of Kenya, I want to leave you with this quote. Also thinking of the last Mashujaa Day, which was with Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
Our discontent begins by finding false villains whom we accuse of deceiving us. Next, we find false heroes whom we expect to liberate us. The hardest discovery is that each of us must emancipate himself. Happy Mashujaa Kenya. Happy Mashujaa Day. Don't forget, you can also find us on your TV screens. You can find us on Pan Free to Air, GoTV and Star Times. Have a lovely public holiday. Get a good rest. Drink some drink, eat some meat. And we will see you right here again on Monday.